Good afternoon, everyone. My name is John Dennison. I'm with missionlaunch.com. I'm an author, writer, and speaker, and I serve as a voice for those who are working to build a better tomorrow. Today's program is one that's not going to be very comfortable for any of us, but we need to talk about it because the circumstances and situation that's going on in our country right now, that country being the United States of America, is very serious indeed. And I think it's very important for all of us to stop for a moment in the midst of this election season, which the elections are in process now in many places, to end next Tuesday. And what we're seeing is not very pretty. And much of it has very little to do with the election itself, but has to do with the behavior of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. There is, to bring you up to date as to the situation itself, over the last month or so of the campaign, there has been a leak of emails from John Podesta's email account with Google, his Gmail account. And in this Gmail account, it has been leaked out daily for approximately 30 days now of different things that they have been speaking about together and how to, how would you say, stack the deck in favor of Hillary's election. The emails speak for themselves. They haven't been disputed as to authenticity. The only thing I've heard is claims that they were brought up, that they were leaked by the stolen by the Russians and leaked to WikiLeaks in order to swing the election. Obviously, there is some agenda involved here, but I think we're going to get to that in a minute here as we see a little bit more about what's been going on. At the same time of this, there's been a series of videos that you may have heard about, called by a fellow by the name of James O'Keefe. That the videos are for his project called Project Veritas. In these Project Veritas videos, they've gone undercover to meet with various Democratic operatives, and they have uncovered such things as hiring and sending homeless to Trump rallies in order to break up the peace and incite Trump voters to fight on, so that they get them on camera and show how bad all the Trump supporters are. They have talked about conspiring to bring busloads of people in across borders from other states and to go from precinct to precinct to basically rig the vote and vote for people that they know are already dead, but they're bringing them in to vote for them anyway because some of these states have very lax voter identification laws. And the most recent situation with regard to Hillary Clinton has been the revival last week, at the end of last week, by the FBI, where they sent where the director James Comey sent a letter to Congress telling him that it had discovered new emails on the computer of Jeffrey Weiner. And this is a situation that you couldn't make him up any better than this for a movie. And I know they've already made a movie about Weiner, but they're probably going to have a sequel to it. In these emails, Jeffrey Weiner, by the way, is married to Huma Abedin, and Abedin is the second in command she's the deputy chair of or vice chair of the Clinton re-election campaign that's headed up by John Podesta. But she is also the body person, confidant, and ever-present person who runs interference for Hillary Clinton. So it's very, very close. She started her relationship with Hillary as a presidential intern back in the 90s. And if you remember, there was another story about the Clintons with presidential interns with Monica Lewinsky. Okay, these are the people we're talking about. These are people that give the appearance of impropriety everywhere they turn around, and then slander and do their best to destroy anybody who stands in their way, who dares to question them, that dares to speak out against them, that dares to take a stand for any policy other than the ones they're trying to advance. We're starting to sound like a partisan political discussion here. It's not my intention to be that way today, but I am going to be partisan in terms of talking about the Clintons and the effect of the Clintons upon our nation. I don't care if you vote for Trump. All I want you to do is to know what's going on in your country and to be aware of the issues and the efforts that people are making in order to manipulate you and get you to vote in a certain way. I get into more of the facts, or at least the discussion of the facts of the situation. And I want to speak first about the atmosphere between the two political parties. Now, Republicans have pretty much been out of this election cycle on the presidential side because they've turned their back on Donald Trump, and many of whom came out in support of Hillary Clinton. This has been seen by many around the country as being a gathering of the white wagons of the establishment against an assault by an outsider. Trump being considered an outsider who wants to break up that system of crony capitalism that they're all using to feed at the trough of the American voter. The parties, I guess we're going to be talking about the Democratic Party today. and in fairness, to start out here, or to let you know, in this way of disclosure, I used to be a Democrat. I was a Democrat for, I don't know, probably 50 years. It was in end of 2007, just before Obama's nomination came up, that I left the Democratic Party because I felt that it no longer served the interests of the people. I felt it was playing far too many games back then and representing fragments of society rather than trying to treat society as a whole and serve all of the people. It was espousing policies and projects that I just couldn't support. So I became an independent. I didn't run over and become a Republican. I can tell you that I've never been a Republican. Going all the way back to the days of Kennedy in the White House. I mean, I became a voter when Richard Nixon was in the White House. And obviously I did not vote for Richard Nixon. I voted against Richard Nixon. And I was a strong Democrat in those days because I was looking for change. I was part of the anti-war movement, part of the effort to get the politicians to listen to the people. And the people were standing up and speaking out, and primarily students in those days in what was an anti-war movement. But I digress. Again, my history is one that I wanted to let you know of because I don't want it to be. I think you need to know the backgrounds and the philosophies of the people that speak to you. I share mine willingly. I don't think very many of the politicians that we see out there really tell you much about their background and why they believe what they believe. Now and since that time, since I left the Democratic Party in 2008, I guess you can say I've been not just an independent, but I have leanings more aligned with the progressive wing of the Democratic Party and the libertarians than I do with anyone else. They are they speak a message that is close to my heart about ridding our country of the corruption and influence of money and the distortion of the will of the people. Because the government we have is not responsive to the will of the people. If any of you have ever tried to petition your government to do anything, you'll discover that they don't serve us. They serve the people that put them there. They serve each other, and particularly they serve these parties. The Democratic Party operatives that were in the Project Veritas videos, and again, I strongly recommend that you go watch these so you understand what's going on in our community, in our country, and the efforts that they're going to skew things and make it so that your vote won't matter. All that will matter are the dirty tricks that they're pulling, because they are manipulating the people in underhanded ways to vote for them and empower them to continue playing the game they play. The Democrats in power are much like what we saw when Bush there was Bush years, is that other Democrats are put in power with them. So they come in with these long coattails and they bring in all of their cohorts and they give them these patronage jobs and put them in positions of power and positions of importance within the system so that they can control the flow of information, that they can control the access, that control the investigations, they can control all aspects of the government. That's what the political parties fight for, is control. They fight for power. This is a game where at least one side, and I would suspect it's going to apply to the Republicans, but I can't speak about them because I don't have any specific information about them. So I'm not going to paint them with this brush today. But it would appear from everything that we've read in the WikiLeaks disclosures and that we have seen from the and heard coming out of the mouths of the Democratic operatives on the Project Veritas video and all the dirty tricks and criminal violations that they're showing to be committing there, is that they don't care about the people. They only care about power. And they support each other. They put each other in office. They give each other jobs. This is the kind of society that we have. And then that goes beyond that, in that they seem to be working at times to support the business donor, the rich businesses and donors that kick money into their campaign and kick money back into their projects and into their party to enable them to do this and keep this going. And they seem to have a bottomless pit of money available to them. And they have found ways to get it where it's no longer about donors, about people saying, well, I believe in this cause, I'm going to give money to it. They're out begging, borrowing, stealing, blackmailing, extorting, selling favors, selling access. And these pay-for-play schemes that we've all suspected for years have been going on within our government are happening at an immense level with the Clintons. Now, I'm going to take you back into the 90s again, because it's important for you to understand that the Clintons are they're not coming up out of nowhere. They've been around for 30 years. So we need to understand what that history has been for the last 30 years. Bill Clinton rose to power at a time when our country was turning more conservative. It was a few years after Reagan. It was there was the first Bush had already been, and he actually beat Bush the second time, and he was involved with a conservative Democratic council, and was in that basis of his conservatism as a Democrat is what brought him into the White House. And immediately when they got into the White House, and I have no problem with his political views, whether he's a little liberal or conservative. Sometimes they bump up against mine. I'm not concerned with the political views right now. I'm concerned with the process and the way that it has been distorted and lied and cheat and steal that we have seen, and we continue to see. But Clinton started off with Whitewater. You may have heard of Whitewater. This was a real estate deal in which he and some friends had gotten involved, and he was alleged to have taken some kickbacks illegally through them. And there was a special investigator appointed, and the bottom line result is they didn't find anything that they could charge him with, but it didn't look good. But from the Whitewater investigation, as it spread, and they started looking into, there was a law firm that was enabling them to do this. A law firm that a certain lady at the time worked, a lady by the name of Hillary Rodham Clinton. She was Bill Clinton's wife, and he had been, excuse me, he had been the governor of Arkansas at the time, and she had been its first lady, or whatever they call it. Well, anyway, in the investigation of Whitewater, trying to prove the crime against the Clintons, they subpoenaed the records of this law firm that Hillary Clinton worked at. It was called the Rose Law Firm, and she was the head person involved in the law firm itself dealing with Whitewater. Of course, no conflicts there, but The subpoenas for the billing records went unfulfilled. The billing records were never produced, just like Hillary Clinton's emails that were subpoenaed by the Congress in order to see what was happening with when she was Secretary of State. So the same thing happened. They subpoenaed the billing records, and those billing records disappeared. The billing records that had been on her desk, that she had been going through with staff to review them and make sure, and then all of a sudden they disappeared. And those billing records were never to be seen again until conveniently the statute of limitations expired. And the next day they showed up on a table in the residential quarters of the White House. Now, that doesn't smell bad. Nah, not at all. But there was nothing anybody could do with it. So the records were never reviewed. They never became public record. They got off the hook. Vince Foster, who was working in the White House for the Clintons, was accused, or he was purportedly to have been Hillary Clinton's lover. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton have had a very, very strange relationship, and there have been allegations of multiple sexual partners between them, some of whom have been consensual and some of whom have not. Some of whom have been underage, and while most of them have not, but there are many. There are a few allegations going on of the underage, the underage victims of their actions as well, of their sexual exploits. Bill Clinton, as you will recall, was considered to be a sex addict. He raped Juanita Broderick, as she says it. The recent series of tweets from Juanita Broderick, and if you look her up on Twitter, you'll see the tweets where she actually details the rape, and there are where she talks about Bill Clinton as a rapist, where he came into her hotel room and assaulted her under false pretenses. Then, to top it off, after Bill leaves the office, after the office of presidency, the Clintons, these fine, upstanding people, cleaned out the White House. They took all sorts of stuff that belonged to the people that were supposed to stay with the White House, and they took it with them. And it wasn't until the office of until after they left that they were forced to return it, and some even forced to pay for it when they couldn't. These are the Clintons. These are the Clintons when they came out of office. It was one continual scandal. Oh, well, we forgot the big one. We forgot the Monica Lewinsky scandal, and his lawsuit with Paula Jones, in which his deposition was taken when he was president, and he lied under oath, for which he later was impeached by the Congress. He was not convicted. I think he passed by. His skin was saved by one vote. Democrats again rallied around him and kept him in Congress, or kept him in the office. So the impeachment was not upheld, but he was impeached. There was a bill of impeachment, and he was tried in the Senate. And this all stemmed around the Monica Lewinsky situation. Again, if you remember the press conference, and you may still see videos of it on YouTube, where he stood at the podium in front of the press corps, and he said, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman," while his wife stood off to the side there, and she supported him all along. Well, it's not surprised that Hillary supported him all along, because it appears that Hillary has just been as power hungry as Bill has been. And back during the 90s, when Bill was in office, and even before then, she was doing her best to discourage the women from coming after him. They would slander them, they would put in vicious attacks, and they would do whatever they needed to do to suppress them, as they did with anyone else who came out and spoke out against the Clintons. So I want you to understand the history in the 90s, that the Clintons were not coming out of the 90s clean. The Clintons were coming out of the 90s dirty. They went into it dirty, and they came out of it even dirtier. But when they came out, the political powers of the Democratic Party decided that they needed to have someone to fill a seat in the Senate in New York. So they went to Hillary Clinton, who was Bill Clinton. She was, I believe, from Illinois before she married Bill. They then lived in Arkansas for many years when he was governor, and then at the White House. So they had no ties with New York, but she was enticed to come to New York by these powers that be, who put on this wonderful campaign for her to be a senator and threw all the money at her to get to do so, and she won a senator. Yeah, but that's the way New York politics works. You know, it's a power politics game that's determined in the back room by politicians, with the people having to basically ratify it or not vote, because that's the way it is. That's probably the way it's had been, and may be the way it stays. So they elected Hillary Clinton, and she and Bill started the Clinton Foundation, and they started their Clinton Global Initiative, and made it sound like they were doing all these wonderful things in the world. And believe me, they did do some good things. This isn't to say that the Clintons have never done good things, or they have never said good things or meant well, or that they haven't taken care of their friends. Problem is, they haven't taken care of the people. People like you and me. And this brings us to the next part of this video, which is the Clinton Foundation. That Clinton Foundation, as we have learned from the WikiLeaks of John Podesta's emails during his time as Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, disclosed all treasure trove of information about the inner workings of the Democratic Party, particularly the Clinton campaign, and all the people that basically suck up to them, looking to get a piece of the pie, looking for power, looking to get a job, looking to get influence, looking to have her advance or their campaigns. You get to see the influence of money into the campaign and how they were going out raising money and doing and all the tricks that they were doing to try to manipulate public opinion. But most of all, what they were talking about in there was about how the Clintons had brought this upon themselves and the baggage that they were carrying with them, particularly from the Clinton Foundation, because the Clinton Foundation was just plain old dirty. It is literally a cesspool of corruption. And I will explain. And I say this not from personal information, but based upon my opinion after reading the WikiLeaks disclosures and all the other news that has come out. I choose to believe the disclosures as opposed to many who discount them because of the supposed source of the hack being the Russians, which we have learned otherwise here recently, as well as the ill will that they attribute to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks itself. And frankly, in my eye, they have done a great public service. I thank you, Julian Assange. You have thrown open the doors to our government so we can actually see what's going on inside. It's about time we get to see this, because many of us have suspected for years the games that they've been playing. Because every time there's a problem, what happens? They trot out 20 of their cohorts to go out and be the talking heads on TV that will argue against anything anyone else says and talk up whatever points that they're trying to advance. This is the modus operandi of the Democratic Party that has been in power off and on, and using that power to enrich the Clintons. I don't know if you heard, but a former deputy director of the FBI by the name of Mulcahy came out on Sunday and started talking about and actually called the Clintons a Clinton crime family. A crime family. And let me explain why, so you'll understand. When Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State, 85 of approximately 160 visitors, that people that got private meetings with her, contributed an aggregate of over $150 million from 85 people to get a meeting with her and get favors or influence or her to hear what they have to say. These are 85 people that contributed all kinds of money to influence the policies of your nation. So don't tell me that this is a matter of fundamental fairness that she's trying to do, and she's only serving the interests of the people, because these people contributed to the Clinton campaign. Not only did they contribute to the Clinton campaign, but there were donors by foreign countries donating, and large corporations, all of whom were paying homage and giving fealty to the Clintons, in return for which they were getting influence and favors and policies and programs that helped them or their businesses. And I know I've been very short of facts here today. The facts are, you can find them all over the web. But specifics. Hillary Clinton came up with this idea that she was going to take the Clinton Foundation's annual conference to Morocco. And she was going to use it to get a donation from the King of Morocco. Ultimately, the King of Morocco kicked in $1 million, not just for the event, but I believe $6 million of that was actually donations to her in order to curry favor. Okay, and she says, well, I never even had a meeting with it. Well, what was it? How was it? 2 or 3 months later, she approved a deal sending goodies over to his country. Funny thing how that works. Another instance is what is known as Uranium One, where Hillary Clinton, as Secretary of State, approved a deal selling 20% of American uranium production to a company that was controlled by Russia. Now, that may be okay. There might be legitimate reasons in government to do that. And I don't want to question anybody, disparage anybody's character, and certainly not hers. But it looks fishy when John Podesta, you know, that same guy that's acting as her campaign chair, he and his brother have a consulting group, and they were acting as the intermediaries. They actually set up a company to work for, to lobby for, and work on behalf of this Russian company in order to get that sale approved. And they got a real pretty penny paid to them for it as well. Now, maybe that's not a conflict of interest for Podesta or even Hillary to enter into a deal where she knew that she was going to be hiring this guy for her to be her campaign chair. So then the next thing that happens is within 6 months, Bill's got a gig in Russia where he's getting $500,000 to speak to a bank there. They've never had any contact with. It's the payoff. In other words, she approves the deal selling the Russians the uranium, and so Bill gets the speech gig for $500,000 going into their pockets. Well, this is the same way that the Clintons have made $150 million after leaving office, supposedly dead broke. So don't tell me politicians don't enrich themselves. They may not necessarily do it in office, but they certainly can, and we are seeing how. The Clintons had a scheme whereby they had monies to either paid to themselves. Well, let's forget the scheme. Let's keep going on with the facts here. The Clinton Foundation has done more. The Clinton Foundation has taken money from the Saudis. What was it, $28 million from the Saudis. And we all know that Hillary Clinton has approved the largest arms sales in history to the Saudis when she was Secretary of State. But it gets better. John Podesta and his brother got paid as consultants in arranging that deal. I'm not sure how much it was, but it doesn't matter. It was the dollar was too much. It's a conflict of interest. But they don't see it as conflicts of interest. They see themselves that it's okay to serve themselves as long as they are advancing the cause of power of their party and the needs of the Clintons who are at the top of the power structure. The Clinton Foundation was used to solicit, or should we say extort, perhaps, money from American industrialists to get favors, what they call in-kind donations. These were donations not of cash going into the Clinton Foundation that had to be reported. By the way, in-kind donations are supposed to be reported as well, but many of these were not. The donations that I'm talking about are donations of private jets to fly all over the world for free, not just for the president, but for his Secret Service staff and all the entourage that he takes with him. But it wasn't just with president when he was ex-president, when he was going on business, or even his business for the Clinton Foundation. It was being used for Hillary and Chelsea to take these trips as well. And I see that the facts, I'm not working through them fast enough here, so I'm sorry, because I don't know if I'll be able to cover enough ground to get through all this for you today. Some of those flights, those in-kind donations, that they actually had an officer in the Clinton Foundation whose sole job was to go get perks for Bill and Hillary. So they've been treated like royalty throughout their whole period in public office and afterwards. And they've come to expect this. It's this imperial attitude that they seem to reflect, where they don't care about the people. They care about the people, only about staying in power. And if they can get more power, and people give them money to keep in power, then they'll trade off favors to do that. And they'll take care of their friends along the way. And if we remember Clinton as president, he made all kinds of appointments, political patronage appointments, and appointments to people in different positions, such as Loretta Lynch, who is, if you've heard that name in the news, Loretta Lynch is now the Attorney General that Bill Clinton conveniently met with on the tarmac just to prove he could and to show the world that he still had all that influence. And then suspiciously a week later, Comey comes out with his ruling in July that Hillary Clinton's off the hook, that they don't find any intent of crimes, even though it comes out and enumerates a long list of things that will put any of the rest of us in jail. But what we have here, we have on the one hand, we have this democratic power machine. And believe me, it's just power. It's only power that they exist for, not the good of the people. They do it, they pretend it's for the good of the people, and they prop up the people and use those arguments to get their support. But it's not the people that they are serving when they're in office. They are serving each other and the people that put them there, the moneyed people that put them there, the big donors, the ones that pay the freight, like Wall Street, the big industrialists like Google and so forth. But you could see from the Project Veritas video, and I know I'm jumping around, stick with me, please. Project Veritas videos show that there's a hatred, a hatred from Democratic operatives for Republicans. Let's assume that that hatred is justified and that the Republicans have engaged in their own set of dirty tricks and things over the years to get their share of power. Does this make it right? Does it make it right to go fight for power and do things and lie and cheat and steal and stab other people in the back? No, I don't think so, but maybe it is. They're Machiavellians. The end justifies the means, and as long as they have power, it doesn't matter what they do to get there. And even if they're called on it, they have all their minions in place to get them off the hook. And tell everybody, this is not the corruption you're looking for. This is not the scandal you want. Don't believe it. They're all politically motivated. And perhaps some of the Republicans have been politically motivated. But I sure as am not politically motivated in terms of trying to put the Republicans in office by talking about Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton needs to go to jail. Bill Clinton, if he was participating in these scandals to get pay for play with her and the Clinton Foundation, need to go to jail. And there's a very good possibility that these deleted emails that the FBI has been trying to get from Hillary will have some clues as to all of this, that will things that they're trying to keep hidden from us, because there's got to be a reason why these emails aren't being produced. Well, anyway, I told you about Mukasey, who has said that she's it's a Clinton crime family. Well, and we talked about the Clinton Foundation getting all these perks for Bill Clinton. Well, and again, I'm still bouncing around here. Some of those perks were airplane rides. Bill Clinton got approximately 26 rides on a private jet, a private party jet, run by a wealthy financier by the name of Jeffrey Epstein, who is a known pedophile, a known child molester. He is into pedophilia. And this, at least according to the rumors that are out and around, floating everywhere, and that this plane that Clinton was taking flights on was called the Lolita Express. It was known by everybody as the Lolita Express, and Epstein would take these people, and he'd have this cadre of young women, or young women and maybe young men in the plane, who were supposedly providing sexual favors to the people that were going on the plane with Epstein and the Clintons to, I believe, a private island that Epstein owned in the Bahamas or somewhere else. And on this island, they supposedly had sex with children. I don't know this for a fact. I don't know this at all. I'm just shocked as hell at the mere suggestion of it. Because if there's smoke, there's usually fire, and the suggestions, it's just that that they cover the tracks so well that you can't always prove it. But in this situation, on some occasions, he took as many as 10 Secret Service agents with him on the trips. On at least 5 of those trips, he told them to stay home, and he went by himself or went with Hillary. So they were both going and participating in these sex parties on the island, supposedly even with underage individuals. I wish that were the end of it. I wish the whole thing was stopped right there. But as you know, we have this email situation that's come down. That there's been reopened by James Comey when he sent a letter last Thursday to the Senate Judiciary Committee, telling them that his testimony before was incomplete. That he had told the Senate committee before that the investigation into Hillary Clinton was over and was closed because he could make no finding to proceed forward. Everyone thought he was being pushed to squelch it, that he was part of a cover-up from the Clintons, but now he has taken this action. This action has resulted as a result of an investigation that has been going on by the FBI, by the Justice Department and FBI. Five separate different investigations, one of which is in New York, through the New York State Attorney's Office, into the Clinton Foundation. Well, this summer, right about the same time as Comey came out with this, Jeffrey Weiner had another deal with his sex tapes. Jeffrey Weiner is the one who, if you'll remember, is the one who took pictures of his penis and started and was very famous for forwarding him to women by cell phone, by messaging. Well, the latest one turned out to be a 15-year-old girl in North Carolina. So the FBI and the grand jury impaneled by the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York subpoenaed Jeffrey Weiner's records. They did a search. They went and grabbed all his computers, and lo and behold, in the process of doing that search, they they found emails that were from clintonemail.com and state.gov. Let me explain the significance of these. First, state.gov, emails to or from state.gov are typically classified communications with State Department employees or other units of the government to the State Department. Most of this information is not available for public review other than with heavy redaction. Hillary Clinton had instructed her staff to set up a private server. The suggestion to do that private server, we learned from the WikiLeaks, was done by Huma Abedin. Now let's give Huma the benefit of the doubt here, and let's just say she is a good red-blooded American, but she didn't grow up in America. She grew up in Saudi Arabia. She is Muslim herself. No problem with that. But her mother runs a newspaper that in support of the Muslim Brotherhood, a very fundamental. Some might say radical. I don't know that. I haven't read it, but we'll call it fundamentalist Islamic paper that Huma used to act as the assistant editor for. So this is the background of Huma, that she does have some ties to both Saudi Arabia as well as to the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, let's not read anything into that at all. Going back to Jeffrey Weiner's emails, the state.gov emails that were found down there were not the only ones. There were emails that were called from clintonmail.com. The Clinton Mail is the private server. ClintonEmail.com is the private email server that Hillary Clinton set up. So we keep hearing that it was done in the basement of her house in New York. It wasn't in the basement. It was in the same building right next to the servers of the Clinton Foundation. Came under subpoena from the Senate committee I spoke about earlier. Judiciary Committee subpoenaed the emails in order to see to get the records, because she's supposed to produce all these records when she leaves office, and she did not do that. So they were trying to compel her to comply with the law. Of the emails that were on the system, her system magically disappeared. They were deleted and destroyed. What we know now from WikiLeaks is that the subpoena arrived the day before there was a communication. There were communications between John Podesta and Cheryl Mills talking about the emails, and that they had to dump these emails. They had to dump the emails. Podesta says we need to dump the emails, and Cheryl Mills gave the order. All right, that's what we're seeing happening now. So here we are with Huma having these emails that were supposedly put on this. She's denying that she ever put them onto her husband's server, but somehow they got off of her cell phone. These secure communications that were not supposed to be accessible by anybody except others within the government with proper security clearances, got on her husband's computer. A perv, to be kind, and now they've gotten a warrant, and but they weren't able to get a warrant to get to those emails in order to read them because of their original consent to use it. They had been a very limited scope with Weiner in the Weiner investigation, so they had to go back for new subpoenas. But the Justice Department wouldn't give them to them. They had given them an order to stand down, but the agents on the ground weren't standing down. And now, as it turns out, yesterday it was reported that now it's not Loretta Lynch, by the way, who was a Clinton appointee back in the 90s, who has now risen to the position of Attorney General. She somewhat recused. She hasn't technically recused herself, but she's now appointed a second in command to ride herd over the whole email scandal. And this person is none other than Peter Kazdick. Now, Peter Kazdick, if you in today's WikiLeaks emails, was feeding information to John Podesta back in July of 2015 about questions Hillary was going to be asked by the Judiciary Committee so they could prepare for it. And he was working on the committee, but he's feeding information to the people to be sworn in and testify. Kazdick just happens to be the best friend of John Podesta. He was also John Podesta's lawyer when Podesta got embroiled in Clinton's first go-round with the law. And he managed to get Podesta off, and they have been close friends ever since. Well, that's the basis of this cabal and this understanding of all these interlocking parts. Oh yeah, and President Clinton had sent, Sarah Mills admitted that Clinton had emails that weren't from Hillary that weren't labeled state.gov, meaning they had come off of her private server. So Clinton himself knew about the server, the private server, and communicated with her on the private server. And his attorney general did her best to squelch the investigation because she wouldn't let the FBI impanel a grand jury and issue subpoenas to get the information initially. And then when they couldn't do it, she said, there's nothing here. We don't have to do anything. And then to make sure, the second in command was put in command, the deputy director of the FBI, who was appointed, just happened to be the husband of a woman who was propped up by Hillary Clinton's friends to run for either Attorney General or Senate in New York. And she was given $675,000. $675,000 coming to her from Hillary Clinton's good friend, the governor of Virginia. I can't remember his name. I believe it may be McAuliffe. Anyway, this guy, whose wife got all this money to donate it to her campaign, of course she didn't win, that means she gets to keep all that money, is now riding herd over it. He's the one who told the local offices to stand down on their investigations of Hillary Clinton. So as you can understand, there is a tremendous discontent within the FBI that's been reported here over the last couple of weeks. The agents are ready to rebel because of all the crap that's being pulled by their leadership, by Comey and his henchmen. Well, I just forgot his name. Sorry, his name just went through, but I just told it to you, so maybe you can remind me later. Anyway, this whole thing stinks. Stinks to high heaven. And then last night, there's a video posted by Steve Pieczenik, P-I-E-C-Z-E-N-I-C-K. He has a channel on YouTube. You can find the video on there. And it's about Hillary Clinton's corruption. But the important thing of his video is he is supposedly speaking on behalf of intelligence officers in the FBI, in the CIA, in the other intelligence services, as well as the New York police, who are involved in all this, have been investigating Clinton's corruption for years, and they are tired of the lies that are being told. They're tired of the corruption, and they're not. And he says that they are not going to allow Hillary Clinton to steal this election or Obama to steal it for her. And they are saying that they were the ones who released, gave the emails to WikiLeaks and Julian Assange. That it wasn't the Russians that she's been claiming, and I'm trying to use them as the scapegoat. That's to continue beating the war drums. She's been, instead, it was this group within the government itself that released this information. So what we are seeing are battle lines being drawn battle lines which are putting the people in the middle, that we're supposed to sit here and try to say, well, who's at fault? Whose side do we take? I can't tell you what to take. I can only report on what I see is going on, and I can encourage you to go read as much as you can. And many people, they're still caught up in this power game. That they're unable to either read this information or consider it, because they consider it tainted because of the agenda being used to be anti-Hillary. It's been they call it a politicization of both the investigation as well as all the rest of it. That it's all it's just being plain politics, dirty politics, but politics anyway. And therefore, they don't have to answer for what they're doing. All they have to do is paint it as dirty tricks, and they can let it go. But that's been the Clintons' modus operandi ever since the 90s. Divide and conquer, disparage, slander, destroy your opponents. And if you can't destroy your opponents, then destroy the messenger that carries their message. Comey's hand was forced, according to Pachenik, by these FBI agents that were going to start leaking the information that they were finding. Because the implications are is that Huma backed up her phone with all these messages that she was right in the middle of, because she was the center contact point for Hillary Clinton. Anybody wanted to go to Hillary went through Huma. Not right now. They're kind of distancing themselves from her, but the damage isn't finished yet, because Huma's email was backed up to the server. They had 650,000 emails on this server, 10,000 of which were stored under a file called life insurance. Now, whether it was Wiener or Huma that felt that they needed the life insurance from there's apparently something there that the FBI wanted to see really badly. And this is what happened, that these agents were threatening to rebel and bring this information out. So Comey had to speak out about it, because they were going to destroy his agency by showing that there was a split over him playing politics. And this is what Pachenik was talking about in his program. And it's astounding, scary, incredible. I don't know what word to use. I'm feeling so many emotions at one time. It's just really pissing me off that they're getting away with all this stuff. I was a lawyer for a long time, and I understand having to take sides and represent people's views that you don't support. But I don't understand colluding with those same people to hold back evidence, to protect crimes, to conspire for power, or to band together to defend people that are dirty. They're just not good people. And the problem that we Americans are facing now, at this election coming up next week, is now we're facing a potential constitutional crisis. Because if Hillary Clinton is elected, these allegations are not going to go away. Even if Comey comes down and wipes his hands of the whole thing, and they're able to squash the whole thing because they've got the whole power structure lined up in their favor to get their cover up. It's not going to go away. The cat's out of the bag. And there are others like me that are going to stand up and speak out and say, hey, look, this isn't right. We have to stand up for what we believe in, for what is right. Ethics matters. Character matters. And if we're going to have a chance to solve the problems, we got to start there. We got to get rid of these people that are trying to manipulate our business for their own ends. And I don't care whether you are a progressive or you are a liberal or a conservative or a neocon or a neolib or anything, any of the other labels that they have. You know inside of you what's right and wrong, and trying to stack the deck in order to get power, you know it's not right. But if you're participating in it, why? Why is it so important for you to take this side, to do these things, and to sell your soul in the process? Or don't you have one? Don't you have any sense of what's right and wrong? And the other people that are out there, the people that are refusing to consider this information, I ask for you, just take off the blinders and look at it. Give it a chance. Form your own opinions, but don't listen to everyone else. Look at the emails. There are enough quotes of the emails that come out that you can see what they're talking about to support the articles. You don't have to take it from anyone else. You can do your own investigation. But an investigation won't do any good unless you first open your mind to allow yourself to see that which you have not allowed yourself to see before. To take off your hatred of the Republicans, your hatred of politics, or whatever else it is that's got you so willing to go along with whatever drivel she feeds you today. But if she wins, and Obama pardons her, I fear that people won't sit still for this, because we will have lost our government. We will have lost control of our system. That the corruption and cronyism has gone far too far, and that there won't be any hope of getting it back, because they will have cemented themselves into the places that control the reins of power. They've already proven that they've got so much influence with the media. It's almost a collusion to get Hillary elected. Mainstream media has ignored these stories. So I would appreciate if you would share this video so other people can at least begin to understand what's going on. I fear for our country. I fear for our nation. I fear for the people. Because the ones who we have elected so far recently, and the one that the Cubans in Miami are calling Bruja Mentirosa, lying witch, is trying to get you to let her go do her thing even longer, to keep plundering at our expense. I don't know what's coming down the road. We may very well find ourselves in a situation of open rebellion or even revolution here very shortly. There are all sorts of rumors going out about martial law being declared by Obama, postponing elections, or calling them off altogether. I am not hearing those so much in the last few days, but we never know. But I can tell you that there are many who are upset with the way our business is being conducted and the things that are being done in our names. And I'm not part of any of them. I don't know any of them. I only hear what I hear on the internet, what I read. But I try to be informed, and I try to provide an opinion and a point of view that's a little different than what you're going to get from others. My interest is in building a better world, and I don't think we could build a better world if we put lying, cheating scumbags in office. That's my opinion. What's yours? Put it in the notes below. My name is John Dennison. You can reach me at missionlaunch.com. And remember, your vote counts. The world you change will be your own. God bless you indeed. Go with love.